So you're trapped in a dopamine hole. You're overstimulated with content. You've been taking in too much information. It's not your fault. I'm going to help you figure it out. I want you to notice one thing right away. This is a very low stimulation video. I'm not going to deploy any crazy tricks to try and hijack your attention or keep you here. You have to decide to be here and go on this experiment with me. And if you can do that, I can help you win back your attention and go through the rest of your day and maybe even your life with a sense of control and autonomy. And that would be great. I have some steps that we're going to work through, but can we just accept right off the bat that this state of overstimulation is not your fault? You didn't choose to be born in the age of infinite content. You are overwhelmed with so much information, and the social media platforms that you're on are designed to hijack your attention, to turn your conscious experience into advertising dollars. That's how they're designed. They are built to do this. Okay? Can we just accept that? They've conditioned you into a cheap dopamine addiction. So, it's not just the scrolling, it's also the vaping and the smoking weed and all the other bad habits that you want to leave behind, but that you keep relying on because they provide a cheap sense of escapism. They're a momentary painkiller from the discomfort of modern life and all the stress that you're feeling. It's a human thing to turn to these substances, and obviously, we're going to lean on them when we don't have a more meaningful narrative in our life. If you do this, you're going to feel better. All I ask is for your attention right now and for you to give this a shot. If you don't know me yet, my name's Josh. I struggle with all these things as well. I'm not a guru, but I figure we go through this together, right? We're all struggling with the same symptoms. We've grown up in the age of the internet, so let's figure it out together. This is what I've found to be very effective for me. I hope that you find it helpful as well. Let's go from there. So, how do we escape the dopamine hole? Number one, accept that this problem is your hero's journey. Like we said, we need a meaningful narrative. We need something cool to attach to. If we're living in absence of a story that makes sense to us as a narrative creature, obviously we're going to turn to the sensory pleasures. This is normal. So you need a hero's journey, and conquering these impulses is going to be your hero's journey. This is your quest. The feelings that make you turn to these substances, that's your adversary. That's the great opponent to you, the protagonist of your life. Step number 2, give up. Having a hero's journey like that is way too much pressure on yourself. If you're going from 0 to 1, there's no chance that you can embark on some life-changing quest. You have already made the task too big and too epic, and I think we fall into this pattern very frequently. Those of us who struggle with these kinds of habits, the cheap dopamine consumption, falling into a state of overstimulation, we are very attracted to black and white thinking. Right? I'm all the way good or I'm all the way bad. I'm all the way on track, moving forward, making crazy progress, really disciplined. I'm going to change the world and change my life and all these things all at once. Or I'm way off. I'm in a dopamine hole and I'm leaning on sensory pleasures. And this, oscillating pendulum of extremes, this negative self-talk or really positive, high-pressure self-talk, it's not good for us. It's not sustainable. And so we have to be very careful to recognize that when we try to make a change, to not go too extreme and to meet ourselves where we're at. Okay, we're going to take a look at what that's actually like. So we have to start a little bit smaller, even though you don't want to. I know that you clicked on this video because you're looking for some major change right away. Now, this moment right here can be your inciting incident as the protagonist of your life. Totally can. But we have to accept that the journey begins with small steps. They're allowed to be significant. Let's start with the small steps. Step number 3 is start smaller than you want to. All right, you're probably going to have to scale this back a little bit further than you're thinking. You're not ready to go on a 10K run. You're not ready to write the next great American novel. Whatever you're hoping to do with your newfound attention after you take back control of it, you got to scale it back a little bit, a little bit further. Your grand vision is great. Let's keep that anchored over there. We will get to it. But we have to start with what's right in front of us. Okay? To escape the dopamine hole, you have to gain leverage with the lowest hanging fruit. If you're drowning in an ocean of content and overstimulation and substances that addict you and keep you in a state of paralysis, you cling on to the first thing that you have. You need a little buoy or a life vessel thing to cling on to, right? You get what I'm saying? You have to start with what's in front of you. So what that looks like is you don't go out and change your whole life. You do the laundry, or you put one dirty sock in the laundry basket. You brush your teeth. You send a text to a loved one to remind yourself that you're surrounded by other humans and that you are not alone in this world. Right? You get yourself a little mason jar full of hibiscus, LaCroix, and ice. You have a sip. You start with what's right in front of you, because there are things right in front of you that you can start with. Maybe you get yourself a journal and you just write down your thoughts on a piece of paper. Just get them out of your brain, accepting that you need to go through a process of mental digestion. That's what's in front of you right now. That's what this step is. Okay? You get a meal for yourself. You change your clothes. You take these tiny little, very accessible actions to change your state, because when you stack 3 to 5 of them together, you're going to feel different. You're going to feel different, and you will have started a snowball of positive momentum, even if it's nothing amazing on paper. But the point here is that you start with the lowest hanging fruit. Okay? You start with the lowest hanging fruit, and you're allowed to make those things feel significant. That's step number 5. You're going to attach narrative significance to these little tasks. You accept that this is your hero's journey, and that even though it's not as grand as we had it in step 1, this is significant. This is how your journey starts. If this video is your inciting incident, the beginning of your adventure into autonomy over your life, you attach some level of significance to it. So, play some music, right? You need a soundtrack. Every great movie has to be scored by someone who makes you feel something, right? You need a protagonist playlist. Yeah, so you're going to put on some songs that make you feel a certain way. You're allowed to romanticize your life. You have to romanticize those little tiny actions. You have to, for them to feel significant, for them to satisfy your own desire for positive change. This is actually meaningful. Doing the laundry, brushing your teeth, making a meal for yourself, cleaning up your room, doing one homework problem, sending one email for work. These things don't feel very significant on their own, but when you attach significance to them, they become much more powerful. They become keystone moments in your hero's journey, and that's what they're allowed to be. That's what they have to be. Number 5, you're going to get some rest. You gotta rest. And what real rest is destimulation. Rest is not this idea of like sitting on the couch and watching TV. I think that's great. That has a place in your life. But right now, you're a little bit overstimulated. So we have to get back to a state of true rest. This is going to be either sleep or sitting in silence, gazing out at nothing, and just letting your brain digest all of the content that's up top. Because there's a lot of stuff. We got to let it process, okay? So what I would recommend, genuinely, is get your journal, and allow this to be a significant thing as well. Like, get something that feels like a real artifact of your life as the protagonist, okay? I like Moleskine, not a sponsored post, but it's great. Okay, so you get one of those, and you're going to just write out all your thoughts. You are going to dump them out onto the page. This is the final stage of mental digestion. You have to get it out of your body, because it's up here, and if you just let your body do its thing, it will process it. You can expedite the process by getting a pen and letting it all out. If you're not much of a writer, you can speak it into your phone like this. Not to post, but to get it out of your body. There is something really powerful about that expression, okay? So you're going to do that, and then you're going to rest. You're going to go to sleep. You got to restart your day. You got to respawn in the video game. If your life is a video game, you got to go back to the last checkpoint you were at, which in this case is going to mean going to sleep and then waking up. Great, it's a new day. Step 6, you're going to reboot. You're going to keep the positive momentum going that you built from yesterday, but you're going to apply the simple principle of progressive overload to your life. Progressive overload comes from the strength training world. It's basically just making the exercise harder over time. You add more weight incrementally over time so that you get stronger. You can apply this principle to every single thing in your life. So if you started by doing the laundry, brushing your teeth, making a meal for yourself yesterday to just escape the dopamine hole with the lowest hanging fruit possible, with the leverage that you could grab right in front of you, now you're going to make things a little bit more complicated or a little bit more challenging, something that you weren't capable of doing yesterday. If you sent one email, you're going to send 5 emails. You are going to finish the rest of the homework assignment, right? You're going to, take the laundry out of the dryer, fold it, and then organize it, and then, supplement your wardrobe with new things. You got to run with the task however it makes sense to you. But the point here is you want to increase the intensity only the smallest amount that you need to. This is the real art. If you overstretch yourself, if you make it too difficult, you will run out of willpower, you will run out of energy, and then you'll end up right back where you started. Because the rubber band of willpower and control within your brain will snap, and you'll end up right back at 0, where then you'll want to self-soothe from that intensity, and you'll end up in the dopamine hole again. So it's a tightrope. It's a tightrope of intensity that you have to walk, okay? So you've gotten some rest, and now you're moving forward again. You're applying a little bit of progressive overload, okay? You're going to make your tasks incrementally harder. And this is something that you can just repeat over time. Step number 7, you're going to experiment with a creative hobby. Here's the deal. We turn to chronic consumption because we don't have something more interesting to do. Obviously, social media and all of the modern sources of cheap dopamine have been designed to be addictive, right? They were built to keep us addicted so that we spend more money on them and so that we stay under the grip of them. We have to replace them with something more interesting, more fun, more stimulating, more meaningful, more enriching, more creative. all the fun words. We need something to replace it with, because when we lean on subtraction and just try to remove it from our life without any type of replacement, all we're going to feel is the absence of that substance. And so then all of your attention, all of your precious attention is dedicated to that absence. You just feel hungry. There's an empty appetite that needs to be gratified. But what if you were to give your attention to addition, to adding in something else? That's what I think a creative hobby is really good for, because that's something that we as humans really enjoy. Now, this could be a lot of things. It doesn't have to be a traditional artistic pursuit. I've already mentioned journaling a couple times. You've already built this habit last night by getting your thoughts out onto the page. You could just continue that today. You can start by observing the world around you and just writing your thoughts down on a piece of paper. You can read a fiction book that you've been wanting to explore. You can watch a movie and just share your thoughts on that on the page. The idea here is to use your creative practice, journaling or whatever it is, as a vehicle for your thoughts. Okay? You don't have to share it with anyone. It's just a way to get yourself out into the world. And that expression is like the chemical opposite of consumption. Suddenly, you're not trying to make your days pass by filling a hole within yourself. You're giving something. You're contributing something. And that is energizing. That feels great. Now, this can be as cool or as grand as you want it to be. This can be music. It can be visual art. It can be pottery. It can be underwater basket weaving. It can be talking to other people. The way I think about creative work is it's just some form of contribution. It's something that you give from yourself, something that wouldn't exist unless you did it. That is the perfect replacement for chronic consumption habits. And that's what you're going to build in today. Step 7 of escaping the dopamine hole. But again, we want to do this in small doses, right? You're not going to go out there and make a movie right away. Even if you have that aspiration, again, keep it anchored. But start with a small thing. Can you spend 5 minutes writing? Can you spend 5 minutes just talking about your idea with a friend or in your room, right? Can you walk around the neighborhood and take pictures of birds and street signs and houses that you like? Can you pay attention to your own brain and see the things that capture your attention? Because your attention is a precious thing. And if you get back to a state of destimulation where you're not constantly distracted by things, your attention will naturally guide you to the things it finds interesting. And that's something to note. That's something to follow. The very cool thing is that when you get back to a state of zero, when you get back to baseline, your body and your brain will naturally guide you to what you care about. You can trust your intuition. You are not broken. You're overstimulated. When you get back to destimulation, you'll do things that are naturally interesting. Okay? This is the replacement strategy for chronic consumption. Lastly, and this is really what I want to leave you with here, step number 8. You're going to fail again, and you're going to do this again. Now, maybe you're a perfect human being and you're never going to screw up. That would be pretty awesome. But more than likely, this idea of a perfect streak, I'm going to never screw up again, I'm never going to consume cheap dopamine again, I have the perfect system and I'm good to go. It's a ridiculous idea. That's that black and white thinking again, right? That perfectionism that tends to keep us in a state of paralysis. You don't need to expect failure. What you need to have is a system that accounts for it, so that when you do stumble and fall back into cheap dopamine consumption, you can reboot again without having all of these negative thoughts about yourself and, thinking that you're a failure. This happens to all of us. This happens to me. I lose momentum. I fall back on the pathways of consumption that have been ingrained into me through years of use, right? Being exposed to all of these hyper-stimulating cheap dopamine sources. Sometimes you fall back in the dopamine hole. You just need to be able to get yourself back on track and realize that getting back on track, everything we've talked about today, is its own skill set. It is a skill set that you will get better at over time. It just takes practice. And if you can set up this system so that it's doable, it's accessible, it's easy to get started with, and then it becomes exciting and actually fuels you and makes you feel good, then you're far more likely to stick with it. But it takes practice, and you have to be patient with yourself. This isn't like just some motivational buzzword stuff. Like, this is a difficult thing to do. You're currently living in the most overstimulating time of human history. Humans were not built to take in this much information, to be surrounded by this many sources of hyperstimulating distraction. Okay? The odds are kind of against you in that sense, but you are in control. You are in control of your attention. You're in control of what you're looking at. And this can be a very optimistic process. Right? You're behind the wheel of your conscious experience. You're driving the boat, which is great, because even though it's hard, and even though there are many people out there who want to capitalize every single second of your time, they want your attention, they want to turn your conscious experience into advertising dollars, you're in control, and you get to decide what you're looking at. Your attention is your freedom. And I know that that sounds really serious, but accept that the process of taking back control of your mind is only going to work if it's fun. It's only going to be sustainable if you enjoy it. So you might as well find something that you like. If you're looking for more support with this, we have a creative community called Seeker Society that helps you take back control of your attention and convert your chronic consumption habits into creative contribution. You can find the link to it down below, but you got this. You are in control of your life. We all are, and we're going to be okay. We're the first generation of humans who has access to this technology, who is exposed to this kind of problem. And so we got to figure it out for ourselves so that future generations of humanity know how to interact with the internet and can live meaningful lives in an increasingly digital age. We're going to be okay. You are the protagonist of your life, and you taking control of your attention through those tiny little habits is your hero's journey. Please accept the heroic significance of it. It starts with the little things, but you are a hero by brushing your teeth and taking back control. Thank you for your attention. You're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're in this together, and I'll see you next time.